Hey everyone, so this is actually a video I recorded a while back, but I felt it would be pretty useful information, so that's just why I'm uploading it now. So just letting you know, this video I recorded probably over a year ago, but I hope you enjoy it and I hope it's useful. How's it going, guys? It's definitely been a while since I'm back on here. But today in this video, I kind of wanted to follow up, we're not the unboxing, but the video before left off, about treating your gecko for parasites. And I'm going to jump right into this and make it as simple as possible. However, I do want to say before you do any of this that you always want to talk to an actual professional, someone that's a doctor, a vet that has studied these things. Because at the end of the day, if you misdiagnose or mistreat your animal, or something else happens, you obviously can cause serious damage or even death to that animal. So before you just blindly follow my advice, I definitely want to encourage you to, first and foremost, always reach out to an actual veterinarian. However, this is just my experience with treating my geckos for parasites. So what I'm talking about here, in my experience, the most common thing that can happen is the worms right here. The three main symptoms that I've found that if your gecko is showing, it can lead to this, is one, that they are eating, their Pangea, but they aren't gaining any weight. In fact, they are potentially losing weight. The second symptom is feeding them bugs. I've found that some of them will start regurgitating them shortly after they eat them, where you check back in an hour or two and you see basically the chewed up bug just, sitting on the ground. And the third symptom is in their poop. So what will happen is they will have very liquidy, like diarrhea poops. Some of them can still be solid. However, if you look into that poop, you will actually see the little white, nasty worm looking things moving around into that poop, and that's when you know. So the first thing that you need to do, first and foremost, is separate that gecko from all the other geckos. And just keep in mind, anytime you're handling its enclosure or the gecko itself or anything inside of the enclosure, you want to always wash your hands and sanitize everything before you go and touch everything else, just because for these parasites, they are easily spreadable to the rest of the collection. Especially if you have a couple animals, you don't want that to happen, because then you'll have to be spending so much more time treating the rest of your collection. So first and foremost, what you want to do is separate that gecko from the rest of your animals. If you take a look back here, these are all the baby enclosures, and you can see, depending on how the vents are, depends on what time frame in my life that they were built. So it kind of looks all over the place. But anyways, I would grab one of these. I have the lids. I would put the lid on. I would take it out of the rack, away from the other geckos, and put it either somewhere else in the room or a whole completely different room. So that way it's going to minimize the exposure to the rest of the animals. Now the second thing you want to do is you want to take out any substrate or anything in that enclosure. You want to take out all the fake plants, cork bark, whatever you have in there, and then you want to just put in basic things. If you have some paper towel tubes, or maybe just some egg crate, throw that in there. Keep it real simple. Again, this is not a permanent enclosure. This is to get them healthy, but you want to keep it simple, so that way it's going to minimize the cleaning, because anything that gets dirty, you just throw it away. And then also it's going to help you monitor their health, because there's not going to be as much stuff that, if they poop, you might not be able to find it in substrate. So when you have a paper towel, it makes it real nice and easy to see. And then also if they poop on any of the things in the enclosure, it's easy to see on a paper towel tube or egg crate or something like that. And now the third thing that you want to do, which I touched on in one of my previous videos about some of the things that you should just have on hand by having these geckos, is you want to have a bottle of this Fenbendazole. Now what this is a dewormer. You can also find it in your Petco and things like that. However, when you go to your pet stores, what you're going to find is it's going to be in large tubes made for dogs or horses, and it's going to be dosed by the pounds. However, we're dealing with geckos, which is a fraction of a pound. So it's very difficult to properly dilute and dose an animal when you're using these, larger dosed containers for this. So I'm going to put a link in the description down below where you get this, beardeddragon.co. I haven't ordered it in a couple months, so check it out, make sure they still have it available. The reason I buy it this way is just because, one, these are flavored, like this is a banana flavor, and then two, it already comes very diluted because it's made for bearded dragons. So you aren't dealing with a horse, 100+ pounds of a dog, things like that. So the reason I buy it from there is because it's already diluted for bearded dragons, so it's as close to a gecko as possible. The other way to get it is through your veterinarian, so that's also a benefit as well. But it is nice to just have this on hand, because once you deal with it once and go through a vet and all that, as long as you have it on hand, you can kind of handle the rest of the situations if they ever pop up again. The next thing you want is a plunger, for like an oral plunger for medicine and stuff. However, you want to get it to where it will measure the smallest increment possible. This measures by 0.02 cc's. The whole plunger, if you see on here, if it will focus, it's not really focusing that well. Anyways, the whole plunger is 1 milliliter, as you can see down at the bottom there, and then it's 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6 down to 0.01, and then in between there you see those little dashes. There's 5 dashes in between each tenth, so that means it only measures down to 0.02, which is fine too, but if you want to be as exact as possible, you'll want to get one that's 0.01. So now that you have your tools, you have your gecko separated, you have everything out of his enclosure, now you want to dose the gecko. Now the first thing that you need to do is you need to know how much that gecko weighs so you can properly dose by the weight. Alright, so now the next step is to actually dose your gecko. Now, as you can see here with this Fenbendazole, if you get it from beardeddragon.co, or if you have it in general, you're going to need to do a little bit of math here. So this is diluted for 100 milligrams per milliliter. So this syringe is 1 milliliter. So there's 100 milligrams of Fenbendazole per milliliter. And then if you go in increments per 0.1 milliliter, there will be 10 milligrams of Fenbendazole. So then if you break it down even further and go into the smaller notches, which since there's 5 notches between each 0.1, that means each notch is 0.02. So that means for this particular syringe, since it's in increments of 0.02, that there are 2 milligrams of Fenbendazole per notch. Now, this was a veterinarian prescribed treatment plan for the geckos. It was prescribed, I have it written down here, it was prescribed as 1.25 milligrams of Fenbendazole per 10 grams of gecko. So what that means is if your gecko weighs 50 grams, we're just going to do 5 times 1.25, and that means that we would need 6.25 milligrams of Fenbendazole for a 50 gram gecko. So how that would look, right, if we need 6.25 milligrams and each notch in here is 0.2 milligrams, then 2 times 3 equals 6. So what we would need for a 50 gram animal, just 3 of those small notches, just a little over technically 3 of those small notches for 50 grams. So keep this in mind, it's extremely small dosages for your animals. If it's a 30 gram gecko, 3 times 1.25, then we are at 3.75 milligrams of Fenbendazole for that gecko. If each notch is 2 milligrams, then that means you aren't even technically at 2 notches for a, or how they consider 2 units for a 30 gram animal. You're at just under 2 units. So It is extremely difficult to get a very accurate dose when it comes to Fenbendazole and your geckos. However, I have really good news for you, and that news is that Fenbendazole is for the most part a very safe drug for your geckos, which means if you go over by, a milligram or 2 or 3, it's not going to harm your animal. So the most important thing is, one, be very careful, because if you think that you're going to fill up this whole syringe and give it to an animal, math in your head at all, because this math is hard for me. I'm good at addition and subtraction. Doing this, I had to sit down there and figure it out. So just be very careful and know that the dosages are extremely small. But the good news is, if you do get it dialed in, or you go to a vet and you give it an extra, couple drops or whatever, it's not going to harm your animal. But just keep that in mind. That's why I say go to a vet. So now that we have it properly figured out with the math and dosage, and we figure out all the dilution and everything, now let's go grab a gecko. Now the good thing with Fenbendazole is that it can be used proactively. This is even something that I had a conversation with Northern Gecko, who are very large reptile breeders, very professional, out of Canada, and they actually proactively treat their entire collection 2 times per year. So I wouldn't go overboard, with this and start doing it every month. But if you really wanted to be on the safe side, if they're doing it and they're having success, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do the same thing. However, that's not even something that I do, honestly. It's just something that I have in case I have something pop up and I have it ready to go. But that's how, safe this drug is. So what we're gonna do, I have a gecko here, and I'm going to treat him. So after weighing him out and calculating everything, I have the proper dose. So here we have our gecko that I'm going to treat. I actually noticed some in his poop a couple days ago, and I've been treating him. Nothing out of the ordinary changed. Again, guys, sometimes it just pops up. It's annoying, but in all honesty, it's the reality of having animals. Things are going to happen, and you need to be prepared and knowledgeable to treat them. So I weighed him. He's 50 grams. If you remember before we did the math, 50 grams is 6.25 milligrams. So in this syringe, if each notch is 2 milligrams, we have it filled up to 3 notches, roughly around there. Again, it's very difficult to be extremely accurate with this, but we're gonna take this, we're gonna grab him, hold him with our one hand, drip a little of this out, get it on his lip. It's banana flavored, so usually they lick it, and once they start licking, I'm going to try to slowly plunge this into his mouth. All right, I'll do my best to do this without letting him run away or jump all over the place. But I have my little syringe. I get a little drip. It's not perfect, it's not pretty. Sometimes it takes a second till they start licking, and then that's when you administer the rest. So let's see if we could do this. All right, so he still has a little bit on his face. He kind of has like a milk mustache right now. But yeah, he's gonna keep licking it. I'm gonna put him back in his enclosure, and then all I'm going to do is repeat that tomorrow and then the next day. So 3 days, once every 24 hours. Give it a 10-day period, 3 days again. 10-day period, 3 days again, and then that's the full dosage. So it takes basically about a month to fully treat them. So hopefully this helps someone out there that maybe has dealt with this or hasn't dealt with this and want to be prepared. Again, my recommendation is always go to a vet, pay the money, and have them, basically make everything foolproof for you guys. But this is just an alternative once you get a little bit experience with dealing with that. Check the bio for the link to that Fenbendazole. So thanks everyone. I appreciate you all for watching. As always, make sure to follow me on Instagram. And if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out, and I appreciate all of your support.